Hello everybody and welcome back to Deciphering My Experience. My name is Eric and I am here in Las Vegas at the 5D event at the Golden Nugget Hotel, and I'm joined with my wonderful guest, Tony Rodrigues, who is here at the event, and we got to have a blast.
Yes.
It's a nice meeting in person for the first time. So I really just wonder, I enjoyed this event a lot. It was nice meeting people. Obviously we got to meet each other for the first time, and I'm curious what your thoughts were on this event this weekend.
It was nice. Conferences are always cool. The big thing about every conference, I haven't done a ton of conferences really, but I will say that every time I've done one, I've learned a lot. I feel I've learned more than I've taught or contributed. You know, you learn more than you contribute. This one in particular had a long list of people that I've been dying to meet, that have been my friends for years online, that I finally got to meet in person, you being one of them. You know, but there was like Anthony Zender, me and him have been friends since I went public, and then Penny, I mean, I'm not going to go out through it, but there was a lot of people at this event that I wanted to meet. Misha, who is stellar and puts a great deal of effort and helps a lot of people out.
Absolutely, Misha helps a lot of folks.
Especially for people that go through the experience of remembering something that was traumatic, the SRA stuff, the abduction stuff. People are drawn to this that have had something happen to them. They can't remember exactly what happened. And people like Misha's been a hero of mine because she's very active and has a support group and does a lot of work. And one of the first people that I reached out to in the beginning when it was a whirlwind. I was lost with what's going on. So not only that, it's my first time in Vegas, which is
cool.
Impressive. I'll say. I did when I was younger. I loved cities, but I'm a little bit not used to crowds now. But Vegas is something else.
I've been hearing ramblings through the crowds here that a lot of folks seem to be getting connections from the testimonies that are moving around. Have you heard any of that chatter?
What do you mean by that? I don't know.
That they're saying that some of the things that speakers are mentioning are actually unlocking memories. I'm hearing that in the hallways here.
So, yeah, that's nothing new.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
Whenever I do a YouTube interview or something new, or even some of my shows, my show I have a smaller audience because it's a Patreon show. Talks with Tony. You can get there off TonyRodrigues.com. That's my shameless plug.
Everybody go there now.
Yeah, everybody go there as soon as you're done with it.
Open a new tab.
No, but everybody that watches this, whenever I do for another show, like a YouTube, I'll get people that contact me and say that I saw your info and I can't believe it because now I have this. And it's a trigger, you know what I mean, when you're triggering. Because at the end of the day, the SSP stuff and what I'm talking about are things that were gleaned from after repressed memories, erased memories. So, you know what I mean, when you overcome that and get some of those memories back, people get to and there's a real phenomenon of like mismemory. Like you coined that term to me and I'm going to run with it. You handed that to Tom.
Enjoy.
I'm going to run with that. So it's coming to a YouTube near you. Mismemories. Because people hear things, they get triggered and they go, wait a minute, that happened to me too. And then they remember, and you're because it's such a malleable, thin, blurry situation, blurry memory, there's a mismemory there. It's an easy way to get impressed and go in the wrong direction, or have somebody tell you that, and they go, that happened to me too, and then the memory gets kind of overlapped with a mismemory, something close, but not the exact memory. And I think that's a real big phenomenon, and it needs to be addressed. It really needs to be addressed. I may be guilty of it myself.
I think that we all are, but I think that's why events like this can be so helpful, because it's a way of, I guess, honing and dialing that in. There's the mismemory aspect, and then I have what I call reframing a memory, which is the activity of the correction. Yep. To learn that, to honestly assess, hey, I made a mistake. Like having this photo on the wall could be framed and matted, and you have that image in your memory banks of that. But you need to realize it's a mismemory. You take that framing and the matting down, and you reassess. And
it's the same picture with a different framework. Exactly, that's a great way to put it. And I think that happened to me in the very beginning of my recall experience. That happened a lot, I'd like to say, because you remember things in a certain order, and then you remember more, so it actually changes the direction of the flow of what you remember it. So that's why it's a big deal. I always recommend people, when they go through the process, make a timeline, which is difficult. Nobody wants to write anything down, but make a timeline, because later on more memories are going to come, and it's easier to make sense of it when they're sorted into a chronological order.
What year do you think you started making your timeline?
Well, I mean, what do you mean? Like
When you decided to use a timeline as a tool, when you started to
Well,
write down your timeline,
no.
what year was it?
Here's what happened in the very beginning. Let's see, May 2015. I got the bulk of my memories back. I always had memories. It's hard to explain, but I always had memories that did not make sense. They were not in any congruent order. All of a sudden, I got all my memories back. I had big, bulky memories, and I wanted someone to talk to. I couldn't talk to any of my family. I knew I wasn't going to get counseling. They'd medicate me. They sound crazy. So I wanted someone to talk to. The only people that would hear me out were researching the subject at the time. And I talked to one of the more well-known researchers, and he said, don't come at me with all this. Make it into a timeline. He said, I'm not even going to work with you if you're just going to throw a bunch of stuff at me. And he said, write it into a timeline. And I wanted somebody, and let me rephrase that. I didn't want somebody to talk to. I needed somebody to talk to. I was going freaking nuts because I was remembering all these things. I was remembering, I mean, it's fantastic, being abducted. Just there's a lot of stuff that's it's hard to speak and expect people to take me seriously because it's so out of the ordinary. But I was remembering these things nonetheless, and I was checking them out. I was finding places. I went on Google Earth and went, wow, that's real. I went to the places I remembered that I can prove that I'd never been to in my life. And then at that point, I was freaked. So I needed somebody to speak to, and it was in the form of a researcher who needed a timeline for me to speak to. So that was the first step. And what I found was that because I had that timeline in that early time that I was frankly lost in what I was dealing with, I was able to go back later, and it was the vehicle that I put all my memories together with. So everybody that comes to me ever since then, I've recommended, get a timeline together. And unfortunately, it's very hard to do.
It's challenging.
That's right. It's a lot of people can't do it. That's the first thought I say, make a timeline and get back with me. And a lot of people can't because it's so difficult. And you're taking a lifetime's worth of stuff, a picture of a lifetime worth of things, and it's broken. And you're trying to assemble those pieces, and some people can and some people can't. Some people are very good at it, and some people just can't do it because they are good at erasing our memory. That's the core of the abuse.
The confusion, or even and getting back to mismemories, the idea of screen memories. I mean, how do we blame people for remembering something when someone's inserted a false memory?
That's right. Oh well.
It's challenging to me to say, oh well, that person's liars. If it's a screen memory and they're trying to work their way through it, I mean that's a challenging situation.
Screen memories, I'd like to think that a lot of the agencies that are creating screen memories are bungling at it. They bungle it. And a lot of screen memories are so far out there that they don't hold water for long. But who knows? I mean,
I've noticed even in my memory banks certain screen memories that are existing because like you said, they're installed by bunglers. It's almost like someone didn't read the file. They don't know what they're dealing with, so they insert a screen memory, but it doesn't fit. It's so out of place for everything else that it's screaming of being an inappropriate screen memory.
Man,
it doesn't match anything.
I feel like I'm starting to get a headache thinking about it, But anyhow, this conference, we're back on.
Yes, back to the conference. Yes.
This conference was full of people that understand exactly what we're talking about. And not everybody does. It would be weird if everybody did. And so it was great to meet a lot of people. It was great to be here for that. And it went well. The scheduling was packed kind of tight, so we didn't really it feels like it never really landed on one giant packed audience, that the audience was spread into different rooms for what they wanted to see. And that, that may be, I think it was good and bad. I think there were good things about it and things about it,
Fair enough. There's always pros and cons to everything.
I'm afraid of bigger crowds. If I speak in front of an audience, I kind of don't, I'm scared of it.
I was contented with the size because this being my first time out here doing something like this, I can certainly imagine that a much larger crowd could have been a bit more challenging for me. So this was a bit more intimate, I would say, and fantastic.
Yeah, and the questions are always good, when you ping off people in the audience. The other thing is that some other testimonies I'm totally unaware of. I don't follow my own subject matter. I really don't, because after what I've went through and how I've been, I have my set of stuff, and then if I study somebody else's and I find a common denominator, the first thing that comes to mind is he's stealing that. if I talk about it, if I remark on it. So it's better for me to not cloud up the water of my own testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I do see other testimonies, like I did while I was here, it's impressive. You know, I'm like learning.
Yeah.
So
I'm meeting a lot of folks in the crowd that are SSP, so to say, Secret Space Program. I'm sorry, forget Secret Space Program. We'll go so far as Super Soldiery, Secret Space Program. Super Soldiery, SSP squared.
That's all a little super soldiery.
But it's interesting to me that seems to be coming out of the woodwork and the crevices. Oh, look at that, perfect timing. Everybody seems to be networking, connecting the dots and things, and the super soldier conversation seems to be getting more expansive.
Well, let's talk about that. So I also got to meet James Rink, who I've known for a long time, and before I ever got my memories, I saw James Rink on YouTube. You know, like Super Soldier. I saw that information before I knew that what I went through. You know, because I would pop up and research the field. I always knew that I was abducted. I knew it had the first half hour of the abduction. I had those memories, and I would always pop in every now and then and see if anything new happened in the field. And James was there early on, back, I forget when he started, 2010 or something.
Yes, I think it was.
So he's a kind of a name, a big name, and I was fortunate. I did an interview with him when I was here, and I got to meet him, and so that was great too,
This is awesome, yeah.
And the super soldier field is different because people that were taken for a purely combative military existence in these programs have a completely different experience than people that are taking these programs for science, labor, or anything else. When they're going in there to be soldiers, it's a different experience. There's different technologies, and there's a lot going on there. So it needs to be talked about. It needs to be documented, and people need to know that there's more going on than just an ET abducts you and gets you pregnant in 3 hours and puts you back, or whatever people think that the official. Nowadays, everybody believes in ETs.
Yeah, I think more or less.
It's pretty accepted.
They're not shocked by it. They're not arguing against it.
Nowadays, they don't believe in time travel.
Right.
So that's our next little step up for you guys. Also, they travel time.
That's the new pink elephant in the room. Time travel.
Yeah. So
I think it was interesting in the roundtables that we seem to get a lot of feedback from the crowd that everybody, and this is common, that what do we do now? What do we do now? Now that you're telling us this, now that you've disclosed the truth to us, what do we do now? And I very much feel that now is the time for us to just share this information without pause in every direction. I get, like, in the past, this was such repulsive information,
right.
But I don't think we're there anymore.
Well, there is an individual thing. So, that I've known guys in the past that have come forward and talk publicly that lose their job.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me clarify. I don't mean as an individual coming forth. I mean just as a general person.
And from the audience.
From the audience's perspective. As a human being in this society, I suggest we just start blanketing the world with this information to force people to consider it.
Yeah, and so years ago, so I've been at, 2015, and then I started speaking publicly in 2016. And years ago, I would tell people, don't believe me, Reese, look it up. I said, don't take what I'm saying as verbatim as I'm not the authority. I would say go and research it. There's other people like me that are talking. Keep learning about it. That was my advice back then, because nowadays we've seen the whole world change around us. I mean, think about it. These are titanic forces that we've seen big moves in the world, politically and globally, on a national scale that's like war, but not really. And these are these programs fighting each other, screwing with each other. These are literally, and so now it's got to be a different strategy. Just like you say, now I tell people, go and mention to people what you heard here. If you're skeptical, go and make fun of it. You know what I'm saying? Keep looking at it. But the thing is, people don't know that people are being taken for a long time and being put back the same day. If people are being taken, they serve in a program for decades, and then they're put back the same day. So it's a long story to explain how that takes place. But go and tell people that. Say, these guys are crazy, they believe this stuff. The first time you say it, people will think you're nuts. The second time they'll hear it a year or two later, they go, whoa, I heard that before. Mm-hmm. And after a while, it's going to sink in the same way that nobody believed there were ETs 20, 30 years, 50 years ago. There was no ETs, there were flight saucers. It was all a big hoax. Now everybody believes because we have a better understanding of the universe, all the world. Now there's exoplanets. There weren't exoplanets 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have to.
Now we have guys who's on series.
Yeah,
That didn't
guys,
exist
that's
20 years ago.
That's right. Now we have evidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to go to the next step. That they are screwing with the timeline. There's time that's going on. That people are being taken. They don't remember being taken. There's a wide range of tech involved here, and people need to know this. This is how you get it out of the secret, out of the realm of secrecy, to where we can actually deal with it. Because things happen in the politics, in our medical field, in our world, in our day-to-day life, that are consumerism. There are big things happening to us that are manipulating us,
Mm-hmm.
that they have these technology, this level of technology, time travel, conscious transference, space travel. You know what I mean? These big
Mm-hmm.
things are impacting our life, but because we don't connect the dots, because we don't even believe it's possible,
Correct.
we don't suspect anything. You go, boy, that was a little weird.
Yep. I've said before, all possibility exists always, and we need to learn to discuss the probabilities. But I think a lot of people are very limited on what they consider all possible.
And it's by design.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, thank you. Yes, that we've been pigeonholed into this section of things we're allowed to think about and consider,
Mm-hmm.
and anything outside of that is the lunatic fringe.
So, what do you think of the comments?
I think this was absolutely amazing. Believe it or not, it was the ability to meet folks and just speak freely on these topics. The comfort of this environment to communicate with folks. I am so happy to have met Tony. I've also met other guests I'm so happy to have met. I have met folks from, the audience, so to say, people that I've known from Facebook, that I've connected with in the past, I've reconnected now. I had no idea that they were coming here. And these are people that have their own history that haven't become public, but I got to share with and engage with. And it's fascinating to me to meet other folks that we can so readily, it's almost to me like meeting an old friend. There's a familiarity that I can't explain when I talk to certain people that I know get it.
That's right. Well, and talking about it's the best therapy
Mm-hmm.
for anything weird that ever happened. And when you talk about it, the people that are visibly skeptical, you can see the look on people's face when you're talking to them about something. They go, you know what I mean? And it shuts you down,
Mm-hmm.
and it shuts them down because they're uncomfortable with it. When you can talk with somebody that has equal or greater knowledge of weird stuff happening,
Mm-hmm.
then it opens the door. And you know what I mean? And normalizing it is the step. So why don't the ETs talk to us? Because ETs aren't normal to us. So it needs to be normalized. It really is that simple. I mean, there's more going on, but basically, we have to get to the point where we can talk about this stuff and people not want to hang you over it. So, and that's what these conferences do. You're around birds of a feather.
Yes. Birds of a feather, you had me just thinking. I try to impress upon people lately. I was thinking that we have to try to let everybody know that as far as the universe is concerned, us as human beings, I think we're just like galactic chicken. Some people want to be nice to us, and some people want to raise chickens and be nice to them. Some
That's
people
right.
want to raise them and eat them all day long and love eating chicken. And there's everything. We're just galactic chicken as far as the cosmos is concerned. That's our place.
That's right. Yeah. Well, some civilizations treat us like we're part of nature.
Yes.
Basically, in the same way that people think that we're they should come down and give us all this free stuff
Mm-hmm.
and fix all our problems for us. But the same people, like I always, it's the squirrel in the yard
Mm-hmm.
that I give. I love giving this analogy because it's so accurate. I have squirrels in my yard, and if they get sick, I don't go out there and help the squirrel. It's wild, and we are wild in the nature of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
That the Earth is a place. We're a bunch of squirrels, and they fly right by us, and it's of no difference what's going on in our climate or what's going. You know what I mean? Like we're just squirrels. Man, without expanding it a lot worse than that, and
Yeah.
it really is that simple of a situation. We're just a lot of ETs don't mess with us because they're not bothered. They got their own issues.
Understood. And I think with that we can maybe go right to the wrap up of the idea. I think with that being said, I think we need to focus on it's we the people for the people.
That's
we,
right.
We really need to really have solidarity amongst our own damn species.
Yeah.
So we need to stop the bickering, stop all the division that is definitely coming from outside of our species. It's not in our best interest to be bickering about all this stuff. We need to learn to come together because they don't care about us, in more or less. They literally don't care about us, so we have to care about ourselves.
Yeah, and it would seem that way, So, like it's great. Like I said, great to get out and talk about it. And I think that my testimony alone, your testimony alone, anybody's testimony alone, really, isn't going to do it.
Right.
I think a lot of it is just we're just adding pebbles on the back of the yoke that's keeping us quiet until it breaks. And that's kind of, I just didn't want to take it all to the grave. And I feel like later on in the future, maybe something I said might be very valuable to somebody.
Yep. I feel like each of us has experienced, it's like there's a canvas on the wall, and we all get to come by and put a stroke on it.
Yeah.
And we're all painting a picture, but you only get to do a little piece.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And we're getting there. We're totally getting there. But thank you, everybody, for watching at Deciphering.tv. Please tune in and share the information, pass it around. Don't forget to go to the archives because there is documentation that proves that we're not crazy. Have an excellent day, and thank you for coming.